Yeah, so in this project, guys, let me show you what exactly we need. So I had this data from the client, and the data was very big, but I have actually reduced the number of rows because this is just for demo. Now, what is the requirement? If you see here, I have four columns, and these are the four different categories: E-type, electric, petrol, and diesel. Now, client wants that there has to be another four columns here, right? Another four columns here, like this. And based on the index of from highest to lowest, we should be able to see here the headers and not the values. Okay, so what does this mean? Basically, if I copy this, for example, and I just go and paste it here like this, right? Now, if I go and sort this data in Excel, we can use this sort left to right, and I can use the row number 20. So here we have to do the largest to smallest and row number 20, because you see the row number 20 we have the values. I'm just trying to give you a proper understanding before we do this in the Power Query, right? We are not going to do this in the Excel, because in Excel then you can't do the sorting for every this row on the individual level, or you can create a VBA. In fact, I created a VBA code, but then I thought, why not to go and try this in the Power Query and share this project with you. So the point is that if I sort this, you can see the numbers are sorted, and then the point is very simple. I'm just going to copy this, and I'm going to just go and paste this here, and then again the same thing happens. You go and copy this with this the row, because row the values are going to be new values, keeping the header same. Again, then you repeat the same process, and the sorting will happen left to right, right? And we have already created this in the Power Query. As you can see, we have the results here, right? So this is what exactly I want. Fine. So if you see that here, I have petrol is on the highest the level. So you see the petrol is coming here, and you can of course rename these columns. So just go and focus here. So you see that after petrol we have a diesel, and then we have a diesel here, and then electric, and then E-type, right? And same applies for other values also. Like for example, if you see here, the diesel comes first, right? And then followed by electric, and then it has petrol, right? And then it has E-type, right? And if I just go and do some changes over here, for example, I just go and make this, let's say 11%, and I change this to like this. Now you see, the moment I refresh, pay attention here on this particular row. If I just say refresh all, you see that the numbers, the headers are reshuffled. Why? Because now diesel again is on the top, and followed by the petrol, and then E-type, and then electric. So this is how it is. Okay, so let's use this, the brand new data. Okay, and this is the data, and let's just go and go in the, first of all, I'm going to take this in the Power Query. So I'm just going to use this. Okay, now see, what is the first step I want to do? So here what I have done is that, see, now when I looked at this data in the Power Query, one thing is sure, that these headers are to be they are to be rearranged in in the order of highest to lowest indexes, based on the values, right? So if I look at this data right now, I cannot sort this, isn't it, guys? I cannot sort the data here. Why? Because this is already in the pivot form. Now, how are you going to sort this? Tell me, right? I can sort the data left to right, right? But I don't want to sort the data left to right. I want the data to be sorted in the vertical direction, right? Like in Excel, you do the sorting most of the time in the vertical direction, right? So once I will have this data restructured, which means that once I have the data this in the unpivot form, I can easily go and sort the data based on these numbers from the highest to the lowest index. Are you getting my point? So I thought, okay, so we will do whatever we have to do, we will do later. But for me right now, the most important thing is, and the first thing is, that this data has to be sorted, first of all, from the largest to the smallest number, from the highest to the lowest value, right? And then I realized I cannot sort this data right now in that way. So obviously then I would look for the opportunities for other, the areas, options, so that that can help me in sorting the data. So we have this this under the transform header, we have this unpivot column, right? Isn't it? I had talked about this in the Power Query answer. So I will simply say that unpivot on the selected column because I've selected all these four columns: E-type, electric, petrol, and diesel. There we go. You see, the moment I sorted it out, the magic of the unpivot, has worked on this data, and now I can have all the headers flowing in the vertical direction. And at the same time, you see, I have here their values also. Now, for me, sorting this data makes sense, right? It is very easy for me to sort the data. Well, I'm not going to rename all this, but obviously, if you have this type of a project, then you need to go and rename the headers, isn't it? Because that doesn't give a good impression. You should have a good data headers, isn't it? So, for me, right now, the most important thing is that not the headers, but I mean, not the header names, but I will just go and simply go and sort the data. Okay, so when I go and sort the data, you see that I have sorted this data here. Okay, now once I've sorted the data, if I look at this, all the data is sorted, and if the values are same, obviously these values will come next to each other, which is fine. Now when I sort this data, and I'm now going to pick any state from here, just to show you, right? For example, let's pick this st1, for example. Let's see that, because you see st1 is now going to be repeated here 4 times. You can pick any state and you will find that there are actually 4 rows which Power Query has created, right? Now if you are wondering how this happened, well, you see, the point is that how many headers you had when you were sorting the data, when you were here, when you were actually not sorting, but when you were unpivoting the data, how many headers you had? You had here, let me show you, 1, 2, and 3, and 4, right? Now all these headers were horizontal. I had to go and change them to, I had to put them in the vertical direction. Now how this is going to happen? So this E-type, and then electric, and then petrol, and the diesel, if this is the value right now for SD1, and if the data is going to be arranged in the vertical direction, you will find that ST1 has to be repeated along with these headers, all the 4 headers. That's why in the next step, you see that ST1 actually is repeated here 4 times, and then ST2, and then ST3. I hope this is clear. It's a very small point, but still I'm just clearing it out in case if you are, bit confused here. Okay, fine. So after this, we sorted the data. Now, once you sort the data, obviously the states will go in the another order, because now this is sorting is doing going on the value, which does not make any difference, because as I said, if you just go and filter, you will find that all the data is still sorted in the descending order. So what is the point? The point is now headers, obviously the will also if I will sort this, then the headers will also go and sort, isn't it, according to their values. So we have sorted this data, and this particular attribute, these headers are also sorted now. So you can pick anything, like for example, if I go and pick, let's say, S12, you always find that these headers, you see, the sorted according to the value. This is called the descending order. Okay, anyways, so now I'm not going to put the filter. Now once I've sorted this data, what was the next thing I was looking for? You see, the point is that I have got this data the way I want. I mean, if I put the filter here, if I let me just go back here. Now, I obviously I actually need this data. I really need this data, right? But then I want this petrol now in the transpose, in the horizontal direction, and I do not need the values, isn't it? So what I want is that I simply want that the petrol should go in the this direction, then the diesel should go in this direction, and then the E-type should go in this direction, and the electric should go in this direction, right? So what we can do is, because we have got all this data, maybe we can do one thing. We can just, first of all, I'm just going to delete all the headers. Like, I don't need the value. If I need it, then I already have the data with me, original data. I can always use the VLOOKUPs, right? So I'm just going to go and simply delete this. Let's give it a try. I'm going to delete this, and then let's say I don't need the grand total as well, right? So I'm just fine with these the attributes here. And now what I will do, because we need, out of these 4 rows, we actually need how many rows? We need actually only 1 row, isn't it? Because these 4 headers, once they aligned in the horizontal direction, you just need one row, isn't it? So how I can do that? So next step is that maybe we can try to go and group the state and the pin code, because in your data, state and pin code are not repeating. This all repetition which you see here, it's because of the that unpivot option, right? So what I then thought is that let me just go and go in the home tab, and let me just go and say group by, and let's group this with the combination of state and the pin code, right? Well, I think even if you just go and use one option, it's fine. But because I want to keep the pin code and the state here in this data, that's why I'm grouping this. And here I will simply go and do nothing, but I'm just going to give this a name called header and all rows. Why I need all rows, I'll tell you. Because once this option is used, in the grouping, what happens, the whatever the data we have apart from these two headers, that will go in the table form, in the tabular form, isn't it? Right? Once I have the data here, see this now, I have the data here, right? So for every basically state or pin code, whatever you want to call it, we have these headers, and they are already sorted the way we wanted it. Correct? Now, if you just want to delete anything, I mean, let's say you want to delete the pin code, you can delete it, because originally we have kept all these values, but I'm not going to do that, right? Okay, now see, when you have this data, we don't need actually the pin code and the state, because they are already there. Okay, so what I want is that I just want this particular header, which is attribute. Why? Because I want to go and transpose this later on. If I go and transpose this right away, what will happen? Pin code and the state will also be transposed, and I don't want to mess up my data with this particular step, right? Because I have got the state and the pin code, and they should not be transposed. Their direction should not be changed. So what I thought is that let's go in the add column and in the custom column. And here I will simply go and say, okay, so first of all, I'm just going to make sure what columns I need. So I just say that table select columns. Once I am done with this, I will simply go and say, okay, I want to go back. I want to go inside this header, and then inside this header, what exactly I want. So I want attribute, right? I want attribute. Okay, like this. This is the one. Okay, if you want to rename this column, you can, but I'm not going to do anything. So I'll simply go and say okay. Now let's see that. So in the new table, now you see I have only the attributes, and this is perfect for me. So I will delete again this. I don't need this. Now in the next step, we will simply go and use the again add column, because I want to now use a new column where I will simply go and say I want actually the table, I want this transpose, right? So table transpose, and you see there is just one parameter, which is table as table, and for us the table actually is the custom. Okay, and since there is only one header, so this has to be transposed. This is what I'm expecting. So if I click OK and I show you this now, look at this now. So you have the transpose, and wonderful. So when I expand this, what will happen? This will all actually be going to reflect in front of each of these state and the pin code. And since we have already grouped, there will be no repetition, right? So we don't need this. Okay, and now so let's just go and simply go and try to transpose this and see that what is going to happen. I'm sorry, I meant expanded column, actually not transpose. So I'll just go here, and we want to expand this, so I simply say okay. Let's see that, and bingo, you see that I am able to have this the output. Obviously you can just go and rename this, or in fact what I can do, I can just first of all I simply go and say that these are my attributes, or maybe headers, for example. So I'm just going to give them the name, um, the okay, so I'm just going to give this name something called levels. Okay, so once this is done, I do not prefer, I think, using this. Okay, well, I think there was no need for me to rename this to level, because I don't need actually the level. Okay, anyways, it happens, you when you do something, you realize that that previous step was not required. Well, that is something, your knowledge and experience, that makes you very smart. Anyways, now so we have the column 1, column 2, and all that stuff over here. So I think we have got the data now. Yes, you can go and rename these, each of these. You can quickly go here as well. You can just, let's say, you can say header 1, header 2, header 3, all that. But I think it's not required. And so I'm just going to go and, say that this is close and load. And this way we will have a new data, and that data is something we needed. So I'm just going to put the values here. Let's see that. Let's click OK. And you see that we are able to find out the values, right? Now, if you want to now sort this data based on the pin code, of course you can do that. It's up to you, because if you think that this data has to be sorted, you can do that. For example, I can simply say that largest to smallest or smallest to, whatever. So you see that this is the result is in front of you. Now, what I was telling you is that now, in case if you need the other headers as well, you can just go and use the VLOOKUP here, or maybe you can use this again. You can create a lookup also, the merge function we already have in the Power Query. I guess that's pretty easy, so that I leave it to you. But this was the most important thing, right? So my point is that if once you have this output, you can use this table and you can merge, use the option merge, where this works like a VLOOKUP, that in Power Query. And then we can quickly go and select, we can find out these all the headers, or even if they have more headers. And finally that output, we can just, either create a new table, new output, or maybe you can use this as well, because in the merge you have two options: merge as a new query or merge in the same query, isn't it? But the important thing is that, are we able to sort out the data? That's what I want to check. So I'll simply go and quickly go and say 1 2 3 4, right? And now uh, I'm just going to actually refresh the data. Let's see that what is going to happen in the particular row. You see that we have got here. So what is the first value? The diesel. Diesel is 4%. Perfect. And then the petrol, you see that, and then electric, and then 1. Wow, fantastic. So this is working, isn't it? And what about this? So here we have two headers, E-type, and then we have the diesel, which are on the same number, and then we have the electrical, and then the petrol. So I think this is working. Okay, pretty cool. So so remember that this table which we have used here is that this is a table actually. Let's just go and let me show you. You can download this file and you can use this table 3. I'm going to delete the table 1 and the table 2. That's not required. So in this particular case, if you have paid attention, we also got to know about the few functions, like we have used the table transpose function, right? We have used the table select column function also, isn't it, apart from the grouping thing. And that's how basically this project I have created. I hope you have enjoyed this. And if you did not understand anything, just feel free to ask me. And if you think you have a better idea, well, again, you can share your the steps with me on this platform. You can even email me. I will definitely go and check, and I if I like the idea, definitely I will share with other people as well. Happy learning.